If you are new to boxing fitness, then this video is for you. Today, I will be going over building a strong foundation that includes a fighter stance, basic footwork, and primary strikes. And we are going to get started now. Hey Punch Fitters, my name is Chris Hunter, and if you're new to our channel, we cover everything related to combat sport fitness that includes workouts for all levels, tutorials, nutrition, and product reviews. So start now by subscribing to our channel and click on that bell so that you don't miss a single video. Before I get started, it's important to note that there are a number of combat stances, all of which hold value when applied in the correct situation. For example, when in a competitive event, a boxer can only use his arms when striking, and can only be hit in the upper body. So their stance is different than a kickboxer that adds and has to deal with lower body strikes. In mixed martial arts, a MMA fighter also adds and needs to defend against takedowns. At PunchFit, we focus on the fitness element, but my background is in self-defense. Prior to opening my gym, I trained at a Krav Maga facility for 10 years and was a certified trainer for 2. As a result, we use a self-defense stance because we train for multiple attackers that are not bound by athletic rules. Although we dedicate this channel to exercise, I want you to punch safely, with purpose, and look sexy doing it. If you're currently training with a coach and my video contradicts what you're being taught, it doesn't mean that either of us is wrong. Rather, take that knowledge that is being transferred to you and add it to your combat toolbox. All right, so now let's get started. First thing I want you to do is take your feet and adjust them so that they're even with your shoulders. This is going to give us a little bit of a stronger base. The next thing that I want you to do for a right-handed striker is I want you to take that right leg and I want you to bring it behind your hips. Naturally, the left leg will now fall in front of your hips. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the weight in the front foot so that most of my weight is in the first 3/4. I'm going to lift my foot slightly, and it's hard to see, but inside my shoe, my heel is raised just enough so that I can get a piece of paper to go between my heel and the floor. Now on the right foot, it's going to be more noticeable. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to lift my rear heel up and put most of the weight on the first 1/4 of my foot. Next thing that I want to do is to bend my knees so that I drop the center of my gravity. What this is going to do is it's going to put my hips directly in the middle of my feet, both front and back. By having my body set up this way, it provides a very solid platform and allows me to move in any direction very quickly and generate a lot of power from the ground up to deliver devastating strikes. From there, what you want to do is you want to take your chin, tuck it down so you protect your throat from any oncoming strikes. With your hands out, what I want you to do is roll your first set of knuckles, your second set of knuckles, and then put your thumb over your index and middle finger. Then from here, bring your palms in so that they're facing each other. Keeping my shoulders stacked above my hips, I want to add a slight round to my back. By doing this, you're going to notice that I'm able to protect a lot more of my upper body and also throw strikes from very creative angles. With the upper body set up this way, you are protecting as much real estate as possible, poised to throw effective strikes, and loose enough to evade oncoming punches. Now, let's talk about movement while maintaining that combative stance. Footwork is so critical in any sort of combat sport. You want to not only be able to strike effectively, but you also want to get out of the way so that you don't get hit. So let's talk about how we can move while protecting as much of our body as possible. Now, what I want to do is whatever direction I want to move, I want to lift that foot and then push off with the opposite. This is what I mean. If I want to move forward, I want to lift my front foot, and I'm really exaggerating it just so that you can see, but I want to lift my front foot and then push off with my rear. As I push off with my rear, I want my rear foot to glide back up. What I want to do is close the distance so that no matter where I end up, my feet are always the same distance apart. Now, if I want to move back, I'm going to take that rear leg, I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to push off with my front, and then again slide that leg back. The same holds true if I want to go left or right. If I want to go left, I'm going to lift my left foot, push off with my right, slide it over. If I want to move over to the right, I'm going to lift my right foot up and slide off with my left. The most important thing to avoid, what I see a lot when working with new people to boxing fitness, is they bring their feet too close together. The closer you bring your feet together, the weaker your foundation is. The weaker your foundation is, the harder it is for you to throw effective strikes. So this is what I mean by that. I often see when people move forward and they move back, they do something more like this. Notice my knees are straight, my feet are together, they're equal with my hips now as opposed to my shoulders. From here, if I had to defend myself, I'm gonna get hit pretty hard, I'm probably gonna fall over. It's very hard to throw an effective strike. From this position, it's going to be more of an arm punch instead of a full body punch. So, regardless of where I end up, I want to make sure that my feet are always shoulder width apart. My left foot is in front of my hips, and then my right foot is behind my hips. Now that we got the solid base, we have the ability to move in multiple directions. Let's talk about throwing some strikes. We're going to start with two of our mid-range strikes, which are the common jab and cross. The jab and the cross are straight punches and considered to be mid-range weapons. Strongly suggested to wrap your hands and use high-quality gloves. However, you cannot rely on equipment alone to keep you safe when hitting a heavy, dense object such as a boxing bag or a human being. To avoid injury, it is imperative that when striking, that your wrist is locked out with absolutely no movement. Inside your glove, you want to make sure that you're not lazy and that you have an extremely tight, clenched fist. All strikes are going to start by generating power from the ground up to the core and then out to the extremities. Starting with the lead hand, we're going to throw a jab by snapping my hips forward to the target. To throw the jab, the chain of events start like this. Note, I'm exaggerating the movement just so that you can understand what I'm saying. As I snap the hips towards my target, then my shoulder, and then as this punch starts to develop, I want that elbow to stay parallel to the ground until the very last second when the wrist snaps out, making contact with the first two knuckles in the fist. As quickly as that strike gets out, I want to bring it back to the start position. All right, the next strike that we're going to talk about is the cross, often referred to as the knockout punch. Now, when I do this strike, I'm not looking to give my opponent a bloody nose. No, instead what I'm doing is I'm looking to send their nose to the back of their skull so that I can win this fight with just one punch. So, how do I do that? Well, again, it all starts at the ground. This time what I want you to do on that left foot is I want you to put the heel down to the ground and put the brakes on. You'll often hear me refer to our heels as brakes because when the heel is down, I can't effectively rotate my hip. In this particular case, I don't want my left hip to rotate. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actively press down into the ground with my rear foot. I don't want this foot to lift off the ground. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap the leg so that my hip goes towards my opponent. From here, the domino effect is very similar to the jab. As I snap out the hip, my shoulder goes towards my opponent, and then my fist comes out. As this generates, the fundamentals stay the same. My elbow, I want to run parallel to the ground as long as possible, and then at the last second, I want to rotate that wrist, making contact with the first two knuckles. As quickly as that punch comes out, I want to bring it right back to the start position. Some additional coaching tips is to maintain balance by keeping the shoulders stacked over the hips and avoid leaning forward to make contact with the target. Another coaching tip is breathing is absolutely critical in combat sports. Get the timing down so that every time you punch, you exhale, and every time you bring your fist back to protect your face, you inhale. Another critical thing to consider is your chin is considered the off switch for your computer, which is also known as your brain. And whether you're doing boxing fitness or you're actually competing, it is important to make sure that you get used to always having your hands up to protect your jaw. Now, when you strike, another thing that's very important is as this strike develops and I'm bringing my hips towards my opponent and my fist is coming out, as I rotate my wrist, I want to bring the shoulder up to my jaw. Now, this is very important because if I'm with a skilled fighter and they want to evade this strike, they can slip, go underneath, come up, and deliver a strike of their own. So rather than them hit my jaw or my temple, I want to protect as much of the side of my head as I possibly can with the shoulder. It's also important to note that I don't want to bring my jaw to my shoulder. I want to keep my head straight, stacked over my hips, and I want to keep my jaw down to protect my throat. So instead, I want to bring my shoulder up to my jaw. As quickly as this strike comes out, I want to bring this fist straight back to protect my face. The entire time that I'm striking, the other hand is up protecting my jaw as well. All right, punch fitters, that wraps up another video. Now it's time to take this new knowledge that you've learned and apply it to one of our workout videos. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on that bell so that you don't miss a single video. Until next time, get fit, get strong, and get tough.